日本語を勉強しましょう。うどんうどんうどんうどん教室へようこそ。始めるぞ。
We're back in business. Welcome to Udon Classroom's lesson number 3. This is going to be wild, guys. It's going to be crazy. You've smashed out lesson 1. You've destroyed lesson 2. Now it's time to take on lesson 3. And wow, what a lesson we've got today. So, as always, we're going to be splitting this up into 4 different parts. Number 1, the vocabulary. Lots of new useful words to put in that skull. Start memorizing these things. And there's some really cool words today, very, very useful. Number 2, we'll look at the grammar, a really cool particle today, which is absolutely necessary. You need this particle in your life. And then number 3, the sentences. We're going to start popping off some different sentences, bang, bang, bang. And then finally, we're going to be looking at a summary. Just summarize everything, make sure we've got it all under control so we can move on to lesson 4. I promise you guys, this is going to be a good one, okay? So let's get started. What are we waiting for? It's vocabulary time. So, vocab number 1 today is mizu, mizu. I'm getting thirsty just thinking about this. This means water. So, how do you remember this? Mizu, let's imagine you own a zoo and it gets flooded. And you're like, no, mizu, mizu, my zoo, mizu. And it's flooded with water, okay? Mizu, water. Vocabulary number 2, megane, megane. And megane means glasses in Japanese. So, imagine your friend, Megane, has broken your glasses. You're like, Megan, not again. Megane, glasses. Word number 3, we have kutsu, kutsu. This means shoes. Shoes in Japanese, kutsu. So, imagine you're in a store, you just bought some new shoes, but you want to return them because they have a cut on them. The store clerk is called su. So you're like, these have a kutsu, please return them. Kutsu. My brand new shoes have a kutsu, please return them. Vocabulary number 4, flowers. Flowers. Hana, hana. So, hana. How do you remember this? Well, we remember it by thinking you've got a crush on someone called Hannah. Probably a woman, but could be a man as well, who knows? So, give her some flowers. Give him some flowers, you know. Hannah wants the flowers. Okay, so next we have okasan, okasan. This means mother in Japanese. Mainly used for when you're addressing someone else's mother, a more respectful term. So, how do you remember this? Imagine you're like, who's that mother over there? She loves cars. She's madly into cars. And you're like, oh, that's okasan. Okasan. She loves cars. Okay, now we have otosan, otosan, otosan. This means father. How to remember this? Well, think of your father with lots of toes. He is Mr. Toes. Tosan, otosan. Okay, so now we have imoto, imoto. And this means younger sister. So, if you're talking about your younger sister, you say imoto, imoto. How do you remember this? Imagine your younger sister is immortal, 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 immortal. It'll soon come together. Clickety click click. Now we have ototo, ototo. And this means younger brother. How do you remember this? Let's imagine your younger brother is the dog from Wizard of Oz called Toto. And you're like, oh Toto, what have you done? The next vocabulary word is tomodachi, tomodachi. And this means friend in Japanese. It's very hard to make a mnemonic for this one. It's quite easy to remember, quite a unique word, tomodachi. But if you've got a nice mnemonic for me, you can leave that in the comments and let me know. I'd like to know what you think about this one. Tomodachi, friend. Okay, so now we have dewanai, dewanai. So if you remember, we learned des, which means it is, I am, is. Dewanai is the opposite, okay? It means I'm not, is not, it's not. So next we have janai, janai. Now this means exactly the same as dewanai. However, it's just like the use of des and da. You have one that's formal and one that's informal. So next we have kono, which means this, and sono, which means that. But we're going to explain why that's different from kore and sore, which we learned previously, now. So, with sore and kore, meaning that and this, That's used in a more general term, so that is good or this is good. It's not joined to a specific noun, whereas kono and sono actually join together with other words to be more specific and direct. For example, this pen or that car. Let's look at some examples of this. 私はこの本が好きです. As for me, this book I like. この本 represents this book specifically, talking about この本, this book. You couldn't say これ本 because it doesn't work like that. You have to use この本. You could say これは本です. This is a book. Or you could say この本が好きです. これは本です. この本が好きです. But don't worry if you don't understand. We'll come back to this later in the lesson with some more examples. But don't worry, you guys are geniuses. I know you're going to figure this out later. Right then guys, that completes the vocabulary for today. Now we're going to go straight over to the grammar section. We're going to look at the Japanese particle no, and this marks the possession of something. Okay, so it's who belongs to what belongs to who belongs to what, who belongs to who. So it's a very useful particle that joins two nouns together to represent possession. For example, my book, that's my book, or that's her car, or that car is John's car, that kind of thing. So we're going to look at that in more detail. How do we make sentences with this? Let's take, for example, watashi and hon. Okay, so we have I and book. Together, it doesn't make sense. However, if we use the particle no in between those two words, it shows possession. Watashi no hon. I becomes my book. I book becomes my book. Watashi no hon. Okay? So the book belongs to me. Let's look at another example. Okaasan no otousan. Okay, so we have mother and father. With no in the middle, it becomes mother's father. So essentially, grandfather. Okay? Okaasan no otousan. If we swap this round, otousan no okaasan, it becomes father's mother. So grandmother. So the objective for today is to learn to say this is my something or this is not my something. Okay? As well as expressing what belongs to who. Okay? We're going to smash this, guys. Let's go in for it right now. Come on. Okay, first example. Watashi no okaasan. Watashi no okaasan. Watashi, I, okaasan, mother. Watashi no okaasan, my mother. Okay? However, we need a des at the end because it is my mother. Watashi no okaasan desu. It's my mother. Okay, let's expand that sentence a little bit and we're introducing your mother. これは私のお母さんです。これは as for this 私の my お母さん mother です it is. Okay? これは私のお母さんです。This is my mother. それは君の花だ。それは as for that or as for those それは君の yours you becomes yours with no 君の花だ flowers is okay it is それは君の花だ those are your flowers okay I'm just telling you in case you forget those are your flowers don't leave them just lying around you know? Next up on the roster we're going to look at dewanai and janai okay which is the negative form of des and da okay so instead of it is it's going to be is not so let's just get on with it you know let's go okay first sentence これは私の靴ではないこれは as for this as for these これは私の靴 my shoes ではない is not are not okay これは私の靴ではない these are not my shoes ではない is used just like des at the end of the sentence okay now let's switch it up and look at the casual form これは僕の靴じゃないこれは僕の靴じゃない these are not my shoes same sentence but just more casual okay we're using じゃない instead of ではない just like using des and da okay hope you guys are keeping up let's try something else. それはお父さんの水じゃない。それはお父さんの水じゃない。As for that, お父さんの水 father's water じゃない is not. That is not my father's water. Or that is not father's water. Lastly, let's try introducing kono and sono, which we learned earlier. この靴は私の靴じゃない。この靴は私の靴じゃない。As for these shoes, 私の靴 my shoes are not, okay? These are not my shoes. この靴は私の靴じゃない。そのメガネはお母さんのメガネです。そのメガネはお母さんのメガネです。Those glasses are my mother's glasses. Another way to say this sentence with それ instead of その we would say それはお母さんのメガネです。それはお母さんのメガネです。Those are my mother's glasses. Okay guys, I hope that you understand the usage of no, kono, sono, janai and dewanai. Okay, really useful basics here. I want you to practice with these as much as possible and it will be the stepping blocks to the next lesson, okay? You guys really need to, if you want to go back, rewatch this part of the lesson a couple of times, really try and get this down. So let's have a look at a summary of today's vocabulary. Woo! Mizu, water. Megane, glasses. Kutsu, shoes. Hana, flowers. Okaasan, mother. Otousan, father. Imoto, younger sister. Ototo, younger brother. Tomodachi, friend. Dewanai, polite or formal, is not, am not, it isn't, are not. Janai, casual, is not, am not, it isn't, are not. Kono, this. Sono, that. Kore wa watashi no kutsu dewa nai. These are not my shoes. Sono mizu wa tomodachi no mizu desu. That water is my friend's water. Dewanai and janai is the way to say is not, am not, are not at the end of a sentence. Sono and kono point to a specific object and do not require a particle between them and the noun. Alright guys, so after this video I want you to go away and try and write 10 sentences of your own using today's vocabulary and grammar. It really helps stick in the brain. So next lesson we're going to be looking at ka, which is the question marker in Japanese, the question particle, and tons of new vocabulary words, okay? So every week you guys are just building those vocabularies up, your grammar knowledge, everything is going really well. So just keep focused guys, don't go anywhere else, stick with Udon Sensei, and you will not go wrong. Okay guys, mata ne!